Hey guys, Dr. Caffery here. Today I wanted to discuss cold and flu prevention, specifically as it relates to vitamin D. So I'm just going to read from some of these studies that I have on the subject. But first, let's talk about what vitamin D is and what it does. So vitamin D is not really a vitamin, it's actually a hormone. It's something that your body makes from sun exposure, and we do get some dietary sources of it, but that's somewhat limited. So vitamin D is something that is the most common vitamin deficiency, and I can tell you with running hundreds and hundreds of blood chemistries on patients, the majority of the patients I see are deficient in vitamin D. So vitamin D has been shown to increase production of antimicrobial peptides in your body. So a lot of these antimicrobial peptides have direct antiviral, antibacterial, just general antimicrobial action. Some of them are broad spectrum and some of them are more specific. So vitamin D binds to your cells and causes the production of these antimicrobial peptides, which helps you when fighting infection. So here's some studies I want to go through. So study number 1. So in this study, they were looking at elderly women, and they gave them 800 IU of vitamin D per day for 2 years. And then in the third year, they gave them 2,000 IU of vitamin D per day in one group, and another group got placebo during that third year, which is basically a fake vitamin D pill. In the group that got the 2,000 IU of vitamin D per day in the third year, they had only one case of the flu. Whereas in the group that got the placebo, they had 30 cases of the flu. So study number 2, so they gave 1,200 IU per day of vitamin D in winter months, and this was in school-aged children, and this was shown to reduce the incidence of influenza A. Study number 3, in this study they showed that every 4-point increase in blood levels of vitamin D was equivalent to a 7% reduction in influenza risk. So 4 points increase in the blood, 7% reduction in influenza risk. So let me kind of put that in perspective. So most lab panels will diagnose or say that you're deficient in vitamin D if your blood levels are below around 32. That's nanograms per milliliter. If they're below about 32, sometimes 30, different cutoffs, different labs, then you'll be diagnosed with vitamin D deficiency. And, optimally, you want to see your vitamin D levels up higher than that. A lot of people say up higher than 50. That's typically where I try to get my patients. So, and that's something that's very easily obtained. Usually we can take somebody from in the 30s to above 50 in a matter of a couple months of appropriate supplementation. Study number 4, concentrations of 38 nanograms per milliliter, that's just the blood level of vitamin D, was associated with a significant twofold risk reduction in developing acute respiratory tract infections with a marked reduction in percentage of days ill. Study number 5, vitamin D deficiency predisposes kids to respiratory infections. UV radiation reduces the risk of viral infections, as does cod liver oil. It contains vitamin D. And interventional studies showed that vitamin D reduces the incidence of respiratory infections in kids. So basically the conclusion of a lot of these studies above is vitamin D offers or confers protection against cold, flus, respiratory type infections. The Vitamin D Council, they recommend getting blood levels between 40 to 80 nanograms per milliliter and recommend vitamin D supplements if needed to get there. I will tell you, my experience is most individuals do need vitamin D supplementation to have therapeutic blood levels with this vitamin. One thing I will say is it's important with vitamin D supplementation that you also combine that with vitamin K2 and possibly we can consider vitamin A. Vitamin K2 and vitamin A are just important to take along with vitamin D, is they can get depleted if you just take vitamin D alone in isolation. Okay, so in summary, cold and flu research, vitamin D confers protection against cold, flu, respiratory illness. Looking at vitamin D blood levels to guide supplementation is something that can be very helpful. Work with your practitioner to check your vitamin D status and get it in the appropriate range. I'm Dr. Caffery. Thank you for listening.